Howdy folks, welcome to Star Wars The Old Republic by Bioware. It's the, if you believe Bioware, the world's first Star Wars story-driven, massively multiplayer online role-playing game. Holy crap, that was a mouthful. What do they mean, story-driven? Well, unlike every other MMO out there, what they tried to do with The Old Republic was to give each individual character class its own storyline that you followed all the way up from level 1 to level 50. So rather than just simply playing through the game for the sake of increasing your level, or playing through the game for the sake of unlocking a new area to quest in, Bioware tried to keep you actually interested in the whole Star Wars story. So each class has its own storyline. So Jedi Consulars have a separate storyline from Jedi Knights, who have a separate storyline from Republic Troopers, who have a separate storyline from Smugglers. And the same is true for the Sith Empire classes, the Sith Warrior, the Sith Inquisitor, the Imperial Agent, and the Bounty Hunter. Now, how well they succeeded in that? Well, the fact that they even tried is certainly admirable. Personally, and obviously this is going to be completely subjective to everybody, you know, your tastes are going to differ. I thought that the Jedi Consular storyline was really dull and boring, but it was certainly appropriate to the Jedi Consular class because they're all about diplomacy and healing. And yeah, that's pretty much what the storyline was all about. But negotiating peace treaties doesn't really make for compelling and interesting gameplay. But at least, you know, it was appropriate. The Republic Trooper storyline, I thought, started off incredibly strongly and then just became a disaster, which was unfortunate. But we'll talk more about that later. The Smuggler storyline is fantastic from start to finish. It's just so Star Wars. You literally are Han Solo, right? It's just great. And I was quite a fan also of, what was the other one? Oh, the Jedi Knight storyline. Yep, the Jedi Knight storyline was really, it was suitably epic. I haven't played through the Sith, the Galactic Empire storylines. As you can see, I only have a level 19 Bounty Hunter. So I can't really report on that, whether or not they were good or not. But they've seemed to be a bit hit and miss. Some of them are fantastic, some of them aren't. But the fact that they even tried is at least, you know, a positive step in the right direction, because that's Bioware for you. All of Bioware's games are heavily story and character driven, and The Old Republic is no exception. Now, before we start digging a little bit deeper and actually showing you more of the game, the first thing I really need to talk about is how much is this game going to cost you? Because when the game first came out, it was a subscription-based MMO, just like World of Warcraft. That changed relatively quickly when the game started getting into trouble and losing subscribers. They started having to shut servers down, and when an MMO starts shutting servers down, you know it's in trouble. Well, going free-to-play, because it is a free-to-play game, allegedly, going free-to-play probably saved The Old Republic. The servers, certainly when I quit playing the game, the server that I was playing on was mostly deserted. There was hardly anybody there. Well, they've consolidated the servers. Nice healthy population, all the servers now. There's other players there for you to interact with and group up with and do stuff with. It's all good. But the whole free-to-play thing, well, what we're going to do now is we're going to pop over to Bioware's website, and I'll show you what this whole free-to-play thing is, okay? Because this is not a free-to-play game, right? That needs to be said right now, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. They say it's free-to-play, and technically they're not lying. But, well, I'll show you what I'm talking about. There are basically three statuses of player who play The Old Republic. You have subscribers who get unlimited access to absolutely everything in the game. You know, as you should if you're paying money to play the thing every month. Then you have preferred status players who get access to most of the things in the game. And then you get free-to-play players who don't get shit. There's no other way to put it. Now, it is very, very, very easy to become a preferred status player. You may already be a preferred status player and not know it. I'll explain what I mean. And it says it right here, how to become a preferred status player. So, preferred status. You can upgrade to preferred status by buying the game. So it's a one-shot purchase. Buy a cartel coin card. Cartel coins are the game's version of gold, for example, in World of Tanks, or golden eagles in War Thunder. They're the in-game real money currency, if you like. So buy a cartel coin card, automatically become a preferred status player. Buy absolutely anything from the online store, you become a preferred status player. If you were a previous subscriber to the game, all former subscribers are automatically granted preferred status. So this is something that they gave to former subscribers when the game went free to play. So if you've been a previous player of Star Wars: The Old Republic and you left the game for whatever reason, if you're thinking of coming back, you will not come back as a free-to-play player. You'll come back as a preferred status player. Now, I keep going on about free-to-play and saying this is not a free-to-play game. I'll show you what I mean. So here we go. Now, these are apparently game features. Things like being able to run, being able to chat, being able to send mail and trade with other players, buying and selling things on the Galactic Trade Network, the market, playing missions, you know, actually playing the game. These are game features. And if you, obviously, subscribers get access to absolutely everything. Preferred status get access to most of it, or if not, well, a somewhat limited access to some of it, but they pretty much get access to everything. Free-to-play doesn't get jack, right? The only thing free-to-play players get is the ability to play the game through to level 50, and that is pretty much it. Just to give you an example, we'll have a look at chat. Obviously, subscribers, unlimited access to all chat functions. Preferred status players get full general chat functions, and the who lists are unlocked. So, you know, that's fine. General chat is all you really want. Free-to-play players get restricted tells and can only use general chat on the starting planets. Oh my god. They can't send in-game mail, they can only receive it. They can't trade with other characters. They can only put 2 items per time on the Galactic Trade Network. Character creation, they only get 2 character slots. Preferred status player gets 6 character slots. Subscribers get full access to all character creation choices. And so on, and so on, and so on. You want to do a dungeon? These are flashpoints. Flashpoints are their version of dungeons. Subscribers, unlimited access to all flashpoints and rewards. And rewards? What does that mean? Preferred status, full rewards from 3 flashpoints per week, or purchase a weekly pass to unlock this restriction. So they have to pay money to do more than 3 dungeons a week and actually get loot from those dungeons. Yep, it's the same for free-to-play. This is not... Free-to-play is not what anybody in any other free-to-play MMO would recognise as free-to-play in this game. It's a trial version of the game. They call it free-to-play, but it's trial version of the game. The real free-to-play in this game is preferred status. However, it's not all bad news, because, as we have seen, it is ridiculously easy to become a preferred status player. Buy anything from the online store, be a former subscriber, buy a cartel coin card, or purchase the game, and you automatically become preferred status. So there's that. We've got that out of the way. Let's go back into the game and see what you can actually get for your money, or lack of it, as the case may be. So, in common with most MMOs, it tries not to overwhelm you with a whole bewildering array of abilities right at the start, and I really only have 2 real abilities. There's Strike and Slash. So Strike, which I can use, Slash, which I can't because it's greyed out. The way it works is, here's my health bar, and underneath my health bar is my focus bar. Hitting things with this ability generates focus. Hitting things with that ability costs focus. So in order to use that, I need to use this. And that's it. That's the basic combat mechanic all the way throughout the game for every different class. You have certain abilities that generate a resource and other abilities that use that resource. So let's start generating some resources. I have to kill 10 flesh raiders. I've already battered the crap out of 8 of them. and I'll just loot them. And, oh well, quest complete.
You're unharmed. Good. Flesh Raider shot me in the leg while I was rescuing some Padawans. Don't know where these things got blasters, but I know how to use them. I've been evacuated to a med center, but the fighting isn't over.
I'll push back the enemy, whatever it takes.
We need to stop them at the source. Another Padawan found a cave tunnel the Flesh Raiders used to enter this valley. I need you at that tunnel, making sure the Flesh Raiders don't get any more reinforcements through it.
I'll find this cave tunnel and seal it.
We need to end this conflict before anyone else gets hurt. Find the tunnel along the mountain range. May the Force be with you.
So that was the other thing about the Old Republic. Voice acting all the way through. There's none of these text windows that pop up all over the place and you sit there quickly, which most people didn't bother reading in the first place. They just scrolled all the way down at the bottom, had a look at the quest objectives and clicked accept. They have spent an absolute fortune on this game getting some of the most high quality voice acting. And you'll probably recognise a lot of the voices. Now, the fact that every single line of dialogue in the game is voiced was one of the major selling points of the Old Republic. And I definitely listened to it all. The first time I played a character class up to level 15. Because it was very, very well done. But I didn't listen to it all the second time, and I didn't listen to it all the third time, and I definitely didn't listen to it all the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth times. And that's a real shame, because it is, I mean, they've spent a lot of money on it, and it is very, very professionally done. There's some real talent involved. But what ended up happening was just like in every other MMO, when those text boxes pop up with the mission descriptions, and I would just scroll all the way down the bottom, click the accept button, usually without even reading it, and then just rely on things like this. If you look at the top right of the screen, what do you need to do? You know, the mission details would appear on screen. Captured Padawans, attack of the Flesh Raiders, early lessons. So I wouldn't even bother reading the quest text. And the same sort of thing as it ended up happening with this fantastic voice acting. I just don't listen to most of it. So was that a poor decision on Bioware's behalf? Yeah, I think it probably was. Because one of the major features of your game is something that most of the players just skip. You probably spent an awful lot of money for nothing. So I wanted to show you something else that the Old Republic does very, very, very well. And it's all about removing the ball ache from playing MMOs. So I'm going to go and get myself killed and then show you something. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Should be able to finish me off soon. Oh great, somebody's come to my rescue. Yeah, screw it. Oh well. There we go, nearly dead. But that's okay, because every class has an out-of-combat heal. And it's just... there you go, there's my downtime. I almost died, and I was out of it for 10 seconds. Straight back in. Every class has an out-of-combat heal. Every class has their own buff. Let's see if I can actually get myself killed here. Come on. There we go. Let's aggro a second group. Bunch of wild manca cats. There we go. Never heard of them. Don't know what they are, but they look nasty. Yeah, I'm done for. I'm not going to survive this. You know, unless another player comes along and saves my ass. No, I'm doomed. There we go. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret. I did actually get myself killed earlier, but forgot to record. So this is now on a cooldown. The second time it happened, or the first time you die, medical probe, it is immediately available. The second time you die within a short period of time, it's on a 30-second cooldown. Well, what's a medical probe? Well, once you die, you can either return to the med center, which is back to the starting area, your traditional respawn, or I can call a medical probe and be revived on the spot. But aren't you in a dangerous spot? Aren't there bad guys all around you? Yeah, they are. But when you get revived by a medical probe, you're stealthed for 10 seconds. So you can move to a safe area. And then use your out of combat heal. It's just genius ideas like this. And the game is scattered with them. They're all sorts of little things like this that just... The game just goes out of its way to remove the pain in the arse drudgery that's characteristic of so many other MMOs. There were so many good ideas packed into the Old Republic. It was so refreshing to play when it first came out. The next thing I wanted to talk about was a very interesting system that they introduced into the Old Republic in one of the first major updates after the game launch. And that's the legacy system. Now, what the legacy system essentially is it's a sort of family tree of all the characters that you have on your account. And as you saw at the beginning, I have a lot of characters on my account, so I have quite a high legacy level. What happens is every time you do anything in the game that earns experience, a percentage of that experience is also credited to you as legacy experience. So if you have a look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see two bars. One's yellow, one's purple. The yellow bar is my XP bar. The purple bar is my legacy bar. You can see I'm legacy level 44, even though my character is only level 3. So, well, that's great, Jingles, but what does that actually mean? Well, I mentioned that every class has an out of combat heal. There you go. It's force introspection again. Every class also has their own unique signature buff. So for Jedi Knights, it's this, Force Might. And Force Might increases my, well, all damage and healing by 5% for an hour. So it's a useful buff. Consulars increase your statistics by 5% for an hour. Troopers increase your health by 5% for an hour. And smugglers increase your crit chance by 5% for an hour. But because I have legacy level 44, well, let me show you the legacy window. Now, I'm not going to go into all of this. There's just so much stuff here. But if we look at the global unlocks for Republic classes, because I've completed the story quest line for every Republic class. So what that gives you is, when you complete Jedi Consular Chapter 2, you unlock the Consular emote, which is nice. And it's the same for Knight, and it's the same for Trooper, and it's the same for Smuggler. So let's just show you what they are. And they're just emotes, they're just little social things. So here's the Smuggler emote. And here is the Knight emote. Here's the Consular? Yeah, the Consular emote. I can't remember which ones I've done. Consular emote's not very impressive. And here's the Trooper emote. So, yeah, that's great, Jingles. Is there anything useful you get out of this? Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is. One of the other things that you get for completing Chapter 2 in the storyline on a given class is the unlock of that class's buff for every character on your account. And, of course, I've done that with every character on my account. So, when I buff myself with Force Might, and by the way, if I'm in a group and I buff Force Might, it buffs everybody in the group. Well, I don't just buff them with Force Might. I have every buff. There's the Trooper buff, Fortification, 5% health. There's the Knight buff, there's the Consular buff, and there's the Smuggler buff. So that's fantastic. And there's so much more that you can unlock with the legacy system, just by playing the game. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and we'll come back to the legacy system in a minute when I talk about companion characters, is collections. Now, collections are something that are going to cost you real money, but there are Well, I'll just show you. You can judge. You can make your own mind up whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing. So here is the cartel market. This was introduced a couple of patches back. Great big credit symbol at the top there saying, real money. It's difficult to miss. You've probably been wondering what it is the entire game. You click that, you open up the cartel market, and this is the in-game store. You buy anything from this in-game store, you immediately become a preferred player. So, the whole free-to-play thing, gone. Now, all sorts of things that you can buy. They're constantly adding new stuff. You buy cartel coins on the Old Republic website for real money. You can pay via PayPal, credit card, whatever. Cartel coins appear in your ledger in the game. There's a nice little add button there. They make it very easy for you to spend money. And you buy things in this cartel store with the cartel coins. And there's all sorts of things you can... There's equipment here. There's pages and pages of equipment. Most of it comes with not very good stats on it, but most of it is all upgradable. So, people tend to get them purely for the cosmetic value. Like, for example, the Turncoat armor set, the Eradicator's war suit. It's all stuff that looks nice. And so on, and so on, and so on. But here's the thing. Once you've completed a set, so for example, there are packs, and packs contain, you buy a crate in one of these packs and it contains a bunch of random stuff. Once you've completed an armor set, for example, you add that set to your collection. And what that means is that any character on your account can then retrieve that item. So you'll notice that young Arbalev down here is a level 3 Jedi Knight, is rolling around with a training saber. He doesn't even have a lightsaber yet. Now this is one of those things that well, it may be a good thing, it may be a bad thing. The whole Jedi Knight storyline here on the planet Tython revolves, or culminates in you constructing and using your own lightsaber for the first time. And it's a really, really good story. But I can skip that whole process because of the collection system. I mean, I'll have to do the storyline anyway to get off the planet Tython, but I don't have to walk around with this crappy training saber, because all I have to do is go to collections and have a look at all the stuff that I have previously collected from the cartel market on other characters. These are the weapons. So grayed out, I haven't unlocked. Stuff that isn't grayed out, I have unlocked. Cathar Warsword. Oh yeah, that's nice. How about this? Derelict lightsaber. Transfer a copy of that to my inventory. There it is. I have a lightsaber. At level 3. Kind of takes the challenge out of things, really, doesn't it? But it's there, it's in the game. It would be remiss of me not to show you it. So let's go and beat up some fools with my lightsaber, shall I? So it's probably a little disingenuous on me to be sitting here saying, yeah, check me out, I've just bought this lightsaber, it makes me awesome. It really, really doesn't. I'm not killing anything any faster than when I was using the training saber, because the stats on this thing are garbage. They're a slight improvement over what I already had. However, if we open up the character screen and you take a look at it, there it is. Derelict lightsaber contains one of 4 modifications. It has a colour crystal and nothing else, but it can be fitted with an upgraded hilt, an upgraded mod, and an upgraded enhancement. And you can carry on doing that all the way through the game. You never need to equip a different weapon. You just keep upgrading the one that you have. And that just doesn't apply to the weapon that you carry. It applies to your armour as well. So how many times have you been playing an MMO when you get a new chest piece that you really like the look of, or a helmet that you like the look of, but you only use it for 2 levels because you get something else that's better, but just doesn't look as good? And so you end up discarding the thing that you really, really like to use the thing that's better. Well, that just doesn't happen in the Old Republic. Once you get a piece of armor that you really like the look of, keep it. Next time you get an upgrade, strip the mods out of that upgrade and put them in the armor that you're already wearing. And just to demonstrate that, I've delved into my collections again and spawned a set of Jolie Bindo's armor set. Again, another armor set that I've previously collected on another character. Click this button down here to transfer a copy to my inventory. And I'll just equip this. And there I am. And suddenly I don't look quite like such a noob. Now, the Jolie Bindo armor set is adaptive armor. There are no stats on it at the moment, so I'd actually probably be slightly better off using my apprentice's boots, because they actually give me an extra 3 strength and 4 endurance. So it's not as if I'm just buying myself an advantage using this stuff. It's purely cosmetic. So there's that. And I just think it's a nice feature of the game. Right, well, that's enough messing around at lower levels. This is Alluriel. She is one of my many characters. She's a level 50 twi'lek Jedi Guardian. Jedi Guardian being one of the 2 advanced classes available to Jedi Knights, with Jedi Sentinel being the other. Jedi Sentinels are damage dealers. They use 2 single-bladed lightsabers. Jedi Guardians are tanks. They use 1 single-bladed lightsaber. And very pretty, I'm sure you'll agree it is. And that over there is Kira Carson. She is one of my companion characters. And that's one of the other innovations that Star Wars The Old Republic introduced, the use of companion characters. And you use them for all sorts of different things. Now, I said she's only one of my companion characters. The first one that you get when you leave the planet Tython at level 10 is this fella here.
If that's what you want.
Every Jedi needs his droid. That's T701, and he's a tank and a damage dealer. Kira,
Ready for anything.
she's a Jedi consular. She uses a double-bladed lightsaber.
If you massed Hoth together with Tatooine, would it make a decent planet with nice weather?
Good question, Kira. I don't know. On the planet Hoth, you get
Hoth.
Sergeant Rusk.
Hello again.
He's a trooper with a dirty great big assault cannon. Later on, you get Lord Scourge.
Hello.
And yes, he is a Sith. The Jedi Knight storyline is really, really good. Probably the most useful character you're going to get as a Jedi Knight, however, is Doc.
I live to serve.
And as his name suggests, he's a smuggler, scoundrel, healer. And then, of course, everybody also gets C2N2, who is your ship's butler droid. And you unlock your starship at around about level 15 or 16 after you leave the starter planet and you complete the quest line on your faction's capital world. So Coruscant for the Republic and Dromund Kaas for the Sith Empire. Now, a lot of the game content is actually balanced around playing with a companion character. You're going to find things significantly harder if you try to do them alone. And they all have a different function. Obviously, Doc is a healer, Scourge is a tank, Rusk is a damage dealer, Kira is a damage dealer, T701 is a tank or a damage dealer, and so on and so on. But Doc is a healer, and how fantastic is that? I get to, run around with my own pet healer to keep me alive. Screw it. Let's have a fight. Who wants some? You want some of this? Doc's getting stuck in over there. No particular point of that, I just wanted to show you a bit of lightsaber fighting. So, yeah, anyway, companion characters. They do serve a lot of useful functions, aside from the obvious, like backing you up in fights and all that sort of thing. Because the crafting system in the Old Republic, you don't actually do any of it. Your companion characters do it all for you. And that's crew skills. So here's the crew skill windows. And as a Jedi Knight, I have decided to go for Artifice, Archaeology, and Treasure Hunting on Alluriel. You get up to 3 crew skills. Artifice is all about, there we go, crafting lightsabers, basically. So it kind of made sense. You can make color crystals. Enhancements. Do you remember I was talking about that lightsaber that I got for Arvaleb? It can use an enhancement slot, and artificers create the enhancements. Lightsaber hilts. All sorts of stuff. Wieldables, power generators, shield generators. So artificers do that sort of thing. But they require resources like artifact fragments, gemstones, crystals, and so on and so on. And that's where the other crew skills come in. So archaeology, I can send my characters away on missions that cost a certain amount of credits and a certain amount of time to go and basically find me power crystals or artifact fragments. If I go for treasure hunting, gemstones, lockboxes, which could contain loot or cash, and so on and so on and so on. All sorts of different crew skills. You've got armor smiths, you've got weaponsmiths, you've got medical engineers, I think they call it biotech, I was forgetting the name, and so on and so on and so on. And your companion characters are the ones that do that sort of thing for you. Now, looking at the companion characters again, you'll notice they all have this green bar underneath them. And that's their measure of affection for you. You can see that I've maximized it for all of them. It goes from 0 to 10,000. Once you've done that, again, going back to the legacy system, excuse me. So for Jedi Knight, because that's who we're on at the moment, once you have maximized the affection on a character, it unlocks these. And what they do is, for maximizing the affection on your first character, and it's the same for every class, it doesn't matter whether it's a consular, knight, trooper or smuggler. For the first character, 10% bonus to your presence statistic on all of your characters. Presence is a stat that increases the effectiveness of your companion characters. So every single character I have, because I've unlocked all of these, gets an extra 10 bonus to their presence. And again. And again. And again. And again. So it makes your companions so much better. Companions all have their own storylines too, so you can appreciate that there's a lot of content in there, purely based around the companion characters. And some of the stories are really, really, really good. Some of them are fairly, obviously just filler content, but there's a lot of time and effort gone into the companion characters in the game, which is, appropriate because they are such a large part of the game. Check out my ride. Oh yeah. Who said being a Jedi was all about sacrifice? Welcome to Nar Shaddaa, the vertical city. This is where the huts come from. And hell's bells, look at that. I mean, that's impressive, isn't it? Unfortunately, this is one of the downsides of the Old Republic. Yeah, that it does look pretty, but the environments that you play in are actually very, very limited. If we pull up the planet map, well, there's the area map. I'm on the upper promenade. Sounds like I'm on Deep Space Nine. Oh, we can't talk about Star Trek here. And there's the world map, and that is it. I'm here on the promenade, and these other zones, I mean, they're a fair old size, but that is it. There's no, you're very restricted in where it is you want to actually go, and that's not such a bad deal on a planet like Nar Shaddaa or Coruscant, planets that are in effect big cities, because the fact that I can't get over there is something that, well, You can't get over there because there's a balcony and there's a vertical drop on the other side, and that makes sense. So you can sort of get away with it on cities like this. Unfortunately, when you come to a wide open planet like Tatooine or Hoth, it kind of falls apart. So you come to a planet like Tatooine, and here we are on Anchorhead Spaceport, with these fantastic wide open vistas, and you just want to go exploring. Look, we got womp rats, we got dewbacks, there's a sandcrawler over there. Let's go and investigate that sandcrawler.
Yes, sir.
What?
I'll help you.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Yeah, that's right. Invisible walls. An exhaustion zone. Turn back now or you die. And the best part about it is you can drive through these barriers in a vehicle. And when you're in a vehicle, you're moving a hell of a lot faster than when you're on foot. And sometimes due to lag, it won't actually dismount, and it dismounts you, of course, which doesn't help. It dismounts you and gives you the warning to turn back when you're so far into the exhaustion zone that you can't make it back out without dying. So, you know, you've just got to go and take your frustration out on a bunch of womp rats. Oh, lots of womp rats. Hooray. Have some. For when you absolutely definitely have to kill every mother in the room. Assault cannon, except no substitutes. So, yeah. The game is not without its bad points as well. And the whole limitations of the game engine, stuff like that. I mean, what is this? Warning, impassable terrain ahead. What do you mean impassable? How can it be impassable? Look, somebody's built something over there. It's clearly not impassable. That just, yeah, it really breaks the feeling of immersion. I mean, I'm standing here 100 meters outside of Anchorhead and I can't walk any further into the desert. In fact, if you want to leave Anchorhead at all, in fact, where, let me just, do I have them on me? I don't have them on me, never mind. I was going to use my macro binoculars. There's a settlement over there. I can see it from here, but if I want to get there, I have to take a speeder. It shouldn't happen. It's an MMO, for God's sake.
Ready and able.
Exploration is part of the appeal
I'll help you.
of this sort of game.
Welcome. Please select an available travel route.
That, by the way, in case anybody's thinking, I know that voice from somewhere. That's Garrus from Mass Effect.
Have a safe and pleasant stay.
Yeah, he does get around a bit. And so, well, how can I suddenly drive through? You wouldn't let me drive through there a minute ago, and now I can, because I've paid somebody some... Oh, it's just... I can't think of a single reason why I couldn't just drive to the next location instead of having to take a taxi. The taxi's driving me through the location. Why couldn't I drive through the location? And this place, it's literally just that bit outside of Anchorhead that you can't drive through. Once we get here, I'll mount up. And I can drive almost all the way back. It just doesn't make any sense. So, it's just down to the limitations of the bloody game engine. The fact that it puts these artificial barriers up all over the place and really just destroys that whole feeling of immersion. While we're on the subject of the troopers, I mentioned that as a story-based MMO, the Old Republic is pretty much going to live or die on the strength of those storylines. And as long as you've got good storylines, that's, you know, it's a good thing. And Bioware are famous for nothing if not having good stories and good characters. Well, that isn't actually 100% the case in the Old Republic. The Smuggler storyline is fantastic. The Jedi storyline is epic. The Consular storyline is a bit dull, but it's not bad. The Trooper storyline, oh dear. And this may just be a case of personal tastes. Yeah, I do know people who've thought, hey, you know what, I actually love the Trooper storyline. I didn't. And I'll tell you why, and hopefully without giving away too many spoilers. The Trooper storyline revolves around Havoc Squad, which is, you know, the creme de la creme of the Republic Special Forces. Now, bear in mind here, we're talking about Special Forces. And for one thing, one of the things that kind of ruined it for me was the fact that you're constantly wandering around every planet you go to going, hi, Havoc Squad here, how'd you do? Yeah, got any problems? Havoc Squad here to save the day. Did I mention that I'm Havoc Squad? Yeah, you're new to this whole Special Forces thing, aren't you? Not really heard of things like personal security, operational security, you know, all that sort of good stuff. You're a bit new to this whole thing, going around announcing who you are. And that happens all the way through the bloody game, and it's just intensely annoying. Oh, hooray, another exhaustion zone. Will I make it out before I die? Who can tell? That is just so friggin' annoying. And it seems I'm going to live. Okay, well that's nice. So yes. Anyway, the Trooper storyline. So, again, without wanting to give too many spoilers away, you are a member of Havoc Squad. You start off as one of the recruits in Havoc Squad, and early on in the prologue, by the time you reach level 10, without giving too much of the story away, there's only you and your former commanding officer who are the only remaining members of the squad for one reason or another. And so, Chapter 1 of the Trooper story involves you going around recruiting and basically rebuilding the squad. And it's great, it works really well, it's a good story. Aside from the whole, hi there, Havoc Squad, here to save the day, all that rubbish. Aside from that, it's a really, really good story. And then you rebuild the squad, and Chapter 2 is... it's like reading one of those really shitty expanded universe novels, you know, written by some hack author who couldn't get their own work published and so ended up cobbling together some rubbish for Star Wars. It's yet another Imperial superweapon, and this one's brilliant. This is a superweapon that the Empire has developed a weapon that can fire and hit ships in hyperspace. Well, that's great. How exactly do you target something in hyperspace? Yeah, you can't. That's right. Yeah, no, nobody thought. The ability to actually aim the friggin' thing is generally considered, you know, quite key in military circles, but we'll just let that whole thing slide. So, this weapon is mounted in the spine of a capital ship. So basically, it's like a Star Destroyer built around a super laser. Yeah, yet another Imperial super weapon. I mean, these Imperial super weapon plot lines are really starting to get old now, but, you know, we'll go with it. But hold on, it's mounted in the spine of a Star Destroyer. Alright, so just don't be in front of the Star Destroyer. Makes sense. And of course, when the assault fleet jumps in to attack this Star Destroyer, where do they all jump into? Right in front of the bloody thing. So yeah, they start losing capital ships and blah blah blah. But it's difficult to get, you know, complain too much. The actual mission is great. It really is fantastic, because you've spent the entire game up to that point going around recruiting Havoc Squad members. And due to the limitations of the game engine, you can only really have one companion out at a time. So if you look at Kerensky here, look at all his companions. You know, he's got an entire squad of companions, but he can only ever have one of them out at the same time. And they worked really, really hard in the final mission of Chapter 2 to actually let you use all of your companions. And it was fantastic, and it was great, and it's the only time in the entire game you get to do it. Chapter 3, oh, it was a disaster. The story just made no sense whatsoever. Even on the most basic level, it was just garbage. So, having a story-based MMO is all well and good. You just have to make sure those stories don't suck. Because if they do, you've got a problem. And it doesn't end there, because of course the whole story-based MMO thing only really extends up until level 50, because once you hit level 50, you're in exactly the same position as every other MMO on the market. Struggling for things to do at the level cap. The storylines only extend while you're leveling the character up. So, once you reach the level cap, you're in exactly the same position as every other MMO on the market. There's nothing special about you anymore. And you have to provide the people with something to do once they reach level 50, or, as is the case now with the Rise of the Hutt Cartel expansion, level 55. And to be fair to Bioware, there are, there's a lot of things that you can do, but once again, it's no different to any other MMO on the market. So, aside from all the PvP, what else is there to do when you reach level 50 in this game? And more importantly, what is there to do once you reach level 50 in this game that's different from every other MMO on the market? And unfortunately the answer is nothing that's different from every other MMO on the market. It's pretty much just the case of same old, same old. Take away the lightsabers and this could be World of Warcraft. But, you know, being as good at what you do as World of Warcraft isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if you're looking for something different at level 50, you're not going to find it in the Old Republic. It is very much a case of same old, same old. There are dungeons, there are raids. Of course, they don't call them dungeons and raids, but that's basically pretty much what you're doing. You're getting together with a bunch of other players to defeat tough content. And I used to do that. I raided all of the tier 1 raid content in the game, cleared it all in story mode, cleared it all in hard mode, cleared almost all of it in nightmare mode. Probably would have cleared all of it in nightmare mode if it wasn't for some horrendous bugs that just made some of the fights, under certain circumstances, 100% completely unwinnable. Not that I'm bitter or anything, but you know, that was in the game's early days. Now I'm pretty much just a casual player. I certainly don't raid, I'm not in a guild, I don't really have the time. And that's the thing about these MMOs, they are massive time sinks, and you have to give the people something to do at level 50 or they get bored and they just go away and play a different game. So what is there to do at level 50 other than, for example, raids, dungeons and PvP? Well, when the game shipped, here on the planet Ilum, there was a daily quest area. And in successive patches, they have introduced new daily quest areas. So there's that. But again, it's no different from any other MMO on the market as far as that's concerned. Of course, the game wouldn't be an MMO if it didn't have an achievement system. And credit where credit's due, the Old Republic does feature a very, very good achievement system. It's absolutely chock full of content, giving you reasons to go back to old locations and chase down stuff that you missed the first time around when you were leveling up. You've got event achievements. We'll talk about events again in a moment. Legacy achievements, location achievements, this is exploration, you know, that sort of thing. Raid achievements, dungeon achievements, companion achievements, PvP achievements, of course, and space achievements for the space minigame. All sorts of stuff to do in there. No different, once again, however, from any other MMO on the market. Now, events were a cool thing that they started throwing in every couple of months. The first one that they did was this thing called the Rakghoul Plague, and it was basically like, if any of you have played World of Warcraft and you remember the Necropolis event that preceded the release of Wrath of the Lich King, basically zombie plague, that's what the Rakghoul Plague was, and they did it here in Star Wars The Old Republic, and it was very, very entertaining. It gave you something to do that wasn't, you know, it was just a break from the usual, well, better go and do my daily quest grind. And they've been throwing in other events. There was something to do with a race called the Gree. I completely missed that. I have no idea what it was. There was a bounty hunter week. I managed to catch some of that. Here we go. I only did one contract, but it was pick a target, find him, kill him, with a little bit of investigation thrown in. And it was, you know, there was nothing spectacular about it, but it was something new to do, and they're constantly throwing this sort of thing in. So they are at least trying to keep people interested. So at the end of the day, when you take away the whole story-based content, once you reach level 55, the level cap, what you've got is essentially just World of Warcraft with lightsabers. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it is a very, very nicely polished MMO. And it was kind of rough around the edges when it first came out. There were bugs. A lot of the content was broken, but the game's been out nearly 2 years now. They've had a chance to fix and polish the stuff that was wrong with it. And it's, you know, it's a fine game. It's just a question of whether or not you want to play yet another MMO, because that's exactly what it is once you're through with the whole leveling process. And there's plenty of content in there for you to enjoy. The PvP, I keep hearing bad things about. I can't actually tell you what it's like because I've never done it. But the whole problem of once you've reached the level cap and you're suddenly thrown into PvP against people who have been PvPing a long time at the level cap and have all the epic PvP gear, you just get farmed for easy kills. And it takes a long time to get to the same standard where you compete, not because you're not any good at it, but because you just don't have the gear for it. So that's apparently still an issue. But as another MMO in a very crowded MMO market, it certainly does a good job. And the fact that it is Star Wars is going to be enough of a draw for most people to actually just set it apart from the rest of the crowd. Games like Guild Wars, games like World of Warcraft. But it's not really the Star Wars I wanted to see. I mean, yes, there are Jedi Knights, yes, there are lightsabers, but it's not really Star Wars, the MMO. It's Bioware's single-player Knights of the Old Republic, the MMO. And I still want to see the game with Star Destroyers and TIE Fighters and Stormtroopers and Darth Vader and the Emperor. You know, that's the game I would dearly love to play. Unfortunately, that's not the game Bioware have given us. But this is as close as I'm going to get for now, so I guess I'm just going to have to put up with it. Actually, no, I don't have to put up with it. Because once upon a time there was, and still is, another alternative. And it isn't going to cost you anything either.